Hello, my name is Samia Khan. I'm doing a presentation on the human papillomavirus, also abbreviated HPV. To start off, I want to describe what the virus is. It is the most sexually transmitted infection in the United States. This is a major public health problem here in the US and internationally because it can affect every sexually active person. It exists in our society today because it affects around 79 million people. While there is no way to eradicate the disease, there are treatments and preventative measures available, which I will talk about later in the presentation. It is a virus that can be asymptomatic in many people as their immune system usually takes care of the symptoms, but it can also progress into genital warts and various types of cancers, typically cervical cancer in women. The way the virus is spread is through skin-to-skin contact, the majority of the cases being through sexual contact. Occasionally, it can spread from mother to baby in the womb, but it is not common. Vaginal and anal sex are shown to be the most susceptible to the virus. It is prevalent in all sexually active populations, especially people in late teens and early 20s. It is of course more prevalent in countries and populations where safe sex with condoms is not practiced, and where vaccines and HPV tests may not be easily accessible. Continuing to talk about public risks include people who have multiple sexual partners, people who start having sex at an early age. They both have an increased risk of getting HPV. Tobacco smoking is also linked to more risk of oropharyngeal cancer, which can be caused by the HPV virus. People who, of course, do not have the vaccine are also more likely to get the disease. Some etiological factors include people with weak immune systems, people who are rarely or never screened. As I said before, people who have multiple sexual partners are at an increased risk, but the disease can spread even through one sexual partner. Women are shown to be more likely to get cancer and genital warts in response to HPV than men. Two strategies to solve this public health problem is to get vaccines against HPV. There are several vaccines available depending on the age group. Children in their early teens are encouraged to get 2 doses of HPV vaccine that protect against many of the cancers associated with HPV. If these children do not get their vaccine, they can still get catch-up doses in their early 20s. The second strategy is to monitor your sexual activity. People who are at a lower risk of HPV have monogamous relationships and practice safe sex with the proper use of condoms. Historically, in the United States, there are 2 ways that HPV have been resisted. One is to get screenings for adults. These screenings range from pap smears in women to HPV tests for all genders, which allows monitoring of the HPV virus in sexually active adults. A second example is early intervention of genital warts or cancers. As soon as symptoms appear, people should go to the doctor to get a diagnosis as well as early intervention to fight the virus. Public health in the future focuses on the most important factor of a disease, how to prevent it. Recent research shows 2 possible methods that will improve vaccines to cover more types of the HPV virus. The first is a quadrivalent vaccine that covers the HPV type 6, 11, 16, and 18, most of which cause cancers and genital warts in people affected. The next is a prophylactic HPV vaccine that has a high success rate in preventing and treating HPV. The concern for this vaccine is the cost and accessibility for people in developing countries. In my opinion, after researching and reading all the literature that I have, I realized the importance of educating people, especially young adults and teens, about the human papillomavirus and the steps to take to be aware of it in our own lives. Even though I have taken many classes in high school and college on health, I feel as if we don't really focus on STIs for a good amount of time. Since HPV is the most common infection in the United States, it should be a focused topic in classes. I remember having this vaccine as a 12-year-old, but I never really knew what it was for and what the virus affected. I believe a more thorough explanation of HPV and resources we have, like vaccines and tests, would develop a more educated and conscious society. Lastly, this is my resource page. If you want to find more information on HPV, it can be found on these websites and journals. I just wanted to say thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something about HPV today that you might not have known and are now more conscious and educated on the human papilloma virus.